The throne room burned with blue lightning. Luke Skywalker writhed on the floor, his body breaking under the Emperor's hate. Every scream cut deeper into the man standing silently at Palpatine's side. The man who was once Anakin Skywalker. "Father, please." Vader turned his head. Behind the black mask, something ancient stirred. A memory of sand. A memory of a wife. A memory of a boy he had never been allowed to hold. He moved. In one violent motion, Vader seized his master and lifted him high. Lightning surged through his armor, frying circuits, melting wires, eating away the man inside. But Vader did not stop. He carried the screaming Emperor to the open shaft and let go. Palpatine fell. The galaxy changed. Vader collapsed beside his son, smoke rising from his ruined suit. Alarms shrieked across the station. The rebel fleet had begun its final assault. The Death Star was dying. Luke crawled to him, hands shaking. "I've got to save you. Leave me, son, go." "No." Luke's voice cracked. "I'll not leave you. Not now. Not ever." He hauled his father up, dragging the heavy armor across the trembling deck. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Stormtroopers ran past them, no longer caring about prisoners, no longer caring about anything but escape. Luke found a shuttle. He shoved his father inside, slammed the controls, and tore away from the station seconds before the core ignited. Behind them, the Death Star bloomed into fire. Ahead of them waited a galaxy that was not ready to learn the truth. Darth Vader was still breathing. The shuttle crashed through the trees of Endor. Luke crawled from the wreckage, lungs burning, hands bleeding. He pulled his father out into the cool night air. Fireworks lit the sky above the forest, the rebels celebrating a victory they did not yet understand. Anakin's breathing was failing. "Luke, the mask," he rasped. "Take off. You'll die. I want to see you with my own eyes." Luke's hands trembled as he unsealed the helmet. Steam hissed out. The black shell lifted away. And for the first time in 23 years, Anakin Skywalker breathed the wind of a living world. His pale face was scarred and tired, but his blue eyes were soft. Human. Alive. "Now, go," Anakin whispered. "Tell your sister." "You'll tell her yourself," Luke said. "You're not dying tonight." He pressed a back-to-patch from his shuttle kit against his father's chest. The wheezing slowed. Anakin lived, but the forest was not empty. Footsteps cracked through the brush. Rebel scouts emerged from the dark, blaster rifles raised. Their commander froze when he saw the burned black armor and the white-haired man inside it. "Sir," one whispered, That's Darth Vader." Word traveled faster than light. By dawn, an encrypted signal had reached Mon Mothma on the command ship. By midday, Princess Leia stood pale and silent on the bridge, staring at a hollow image of the man who had tortured her on the Death Star, the man Luke now called father. Across the galaxy, in a hidden Imperial bunker, a single red light began to blink. The Sith Lord was alive, and someone had just started listening. The Rebel command ship Home 1 was no longer celebrating. In a sealed medical bay, Anakin Skywalker lay strapped to a table, surrounded by armed guards. His scarred face was hidden behind an oxygen mask. 2 Jedi robes covered the burned black armor that had been cut from his body. Outside, the storm broke. "He must stand trial," Mon Mothma said, her voice like cold steel. "Alderaan, Lothal, the Gorman massacre, billions of lives. We cannot bury them in the name of mercy." Admiral Akbar nodded slowly. General Maydeen agreed. One by one, the leaders of the rebellion turned against the man Luke had carried home. Luke stood alone before them. "He saved my life," Luke said. "He killed the Emperor. The Sith are gone because of him. He created the Sith we just defeated. Mumutmasnaped. He hunted the Jedi. He served Palpatine for 2 decades. One act of mercy does not erase a graveyard, Commander Skywalker." Luke's jaw tightened. "Then arrest me too, because I will not let you execute him." The room went silent. In the corner, Princess Leia said nothing. She had not spoken to Luke since learning the truth. She had not visited the medical bay. She would not look at the man on the table. "An solo step beside Luke. Whatever the kid decides, I'm with him." Chewbacca growled in agreement. The Alliance split that night. Half the council called for a tribunal. The other half called for quiet exile. No one called for peace. And in the silence between them, a deeper fear began to grow. If the rebels could not agree on Vader, they could not agree on anything. The galaxy had a new vacuum of power, and something was already moving to fill it. Beyond the edge of the known galaxy, in a frozen system no map remembered, the Star Destroyer Chimera drifted in silence. On its bridge stood a tall, blue-skinned figure with red eyes that missed nothing. Grand Admiral Thrawn, a nervous officer, approached, holopad shaking in his hands. "Sir," the intercepted rebel signal. "We have confirmation. Lord Vader was extracted from the Death Star. He is alive." Thrawn did not turn around. He stared out at the cold stars. Interesting. For months, the Imperial remnants have been scattered. Warlords fought over scraps. Moffs hid in deep space. The Empire was dying without a head, but a living Sith Lord that was a symbol. And symbols, Thrawn knew, were stronger than fleets. He turned at last. "Send word to every loyal Moff. To every Star Destroyer captain still flying our colors. Tell them Lord Vader has survived. Tell them the Empire is not dead." "Sir, is it true?" Thrawn allowed himself a thin smile. "Truth is a weapon, Captain. And right now, the rebels are arguing over whether to kill him. By the time they decide, the galaxy will already believe he leads us." Within weeks, the rumor became a wildfire. On Mandalore, Imperial loyalists rose up. On Quat, shipyard workers raised the old flag. Across 100 worlds, broken Imperial units rallied under 3 whispered words. Vader still lives. But Thrawn had a private order, sealed and sent only to his most trusted assassin, a hunter known only as the Nogri. "Find Skywalker. Find the wounded man he protects. And bring me Lord Vader, alive if possible, dead if necessary." In a quiet medical bay on Home 1, Anakin Skywalker opened his eyes. He could feel them coming. The medical bay was dim. Most of the guards had been dismissed. Luke had asked for 1 hour alone for his father and his sister. Leia stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes hard. Anakin sat on the edge of the bed, no longer in armor, just a plain gray tunic. His scarred hand shook. He looked smaller than she had imagined. Older, human. "You don't have to speak to me," he said softly. "I only ask that you listen." She said nothing. He drew a slow breath. "Your mother's name was Padme Amidala. She was a senator from Naboo. She was brave and kind, and she believed in me long after she should have stopped." Leia's jaw tightened. "I loved her," Anakin whispered. "And I killed her. Not with my hands. With my choices. With my fear. I turned to the dark side to save her, and I lost her instead. I lost everything." The ghosts of his past pressed in around him. He could almost see Obi-Wan watching from the corner. Padme's eyes, full of sorrow, in the back of his mind. "I held the line on the Death Star while you were tortured. I watched Tarkin destroy your world. I did nothing. I have no excuse, Leia. I have no defense. I only have the truth. And a daughter I do not deserve." A long silence. Then Leia spoke, her voice low and steady. "Luke is my brother. I love him. I will fight beside him. But you..." Her eyes glistened, yet did not break. "You're not my father. Bail Organa was my father, and you took him from me." She turned and walked out. She would not speak to Luke again for 7 years. And in the dark beyond the viewport, the hunters were already inbound. The twin suns burned over Tatooine as Luke and Anakin vanished from the Empire's sight. They did not hide in Mos Eisley or in some smuggler's den. They returned to the only place that still carried the Skywalker name with pride, Shmi's old homestead. The house was broken, buried in dust, and haunted by memory. Anakin rebuilt it stone by stone. Luke watched his father work in silence, seeing not Darth Vader, but the man he had almost lost forever. At night, they spoke of the Jedi, of their failures, their pride, and the fear that had destroyed them. This time, they would build something different. Word spread in whispers across the Outer Rim. 4 sensitive children disappeared from Imperial records and arrived at the homestead in secret. A miner's daughter from Geralt, 2 brothers from Latau, a former street thief who could sense danger before it came. Luke trained them with patience. Anakin trained them with hard truth. Together, they taught balance, compassion without weakness, power without rage. Soon, the farm became more than a refuge. It became a hidden temple. Old lightsabers were repaired. New teachings were written. Hope, once crushed beneath the Empire's heel, began to breathe again. But Tatooine was never as empty as it seemed. In the deep desert, Tusken scouts watched the strange new pilgrims. In orbit, an Imperial probe caught a brief power spike from the homestead. And far away, Palpatine felt a wound in the Force begin to heal. He did not know why. He only knew the name that rose from the darkness, Skywalker. Then, one cold night, a lone shuttle descended toward the dunes. Its signal was old, Republic old, and when Anakin stepped outside, hand on his saber, he saw the impossible crest on its wing. Obi-Wan Kenobi had come back from the dead. Then, one cold night, a lone shuttle descended toward the dunes. Obi-Wan Kenobi had come back from the dead. When Operation Cinder began, the Empire turned on itself. Palpatine was dead, yet his final command burned through every channel. If the Empire could not rule the galaxy, then the galaxy would suffer with it. Climate satellites ignited worlds. Loyal fleets attacked loyal worlds. Moffs betrayed admirals. The Imperial Civil War had begun. On Tatooine, Anakin Skywalker made his choice. He would not wear Vader's black shell again. In Shmi's rebuilt home, hidden smiths and rebel engineers forged him a gray suit, light enough to move, strong enough to endure. It was not the armor of a tyrant. It was the armor of judgment. Luke saw what it meant. "You're not going back," he said. Anakin sealed the mask, and his voice came steady. "No, I'm going forward." Father and son gathered their hidden Jedi, called their allies, and struck first at the cinder relays above Naboo and Vardos. Young Jedi disabled targeting arrays while rebel pilots tore through the escort screen. Anakin boarded the destroyer by hand, cut through purged troopers, and faced the officers still obeying the Emperor. Some fled, some knelt, some died where they stood. That victory broke the pattern. Sector by sector, captains abandoned Cinder. Others joined the fight against the old guard. Then fanatics rallied at Jakku, preparing one slaughter. Anakin led the assault from the front, armor blazing in firelight, as wreckage fell from the sky and the fate of the Empire hung on a single charge into the storm over Jakku itself. Then, through the fire above Jakku, a hidden transmission reached Anakin's command ship. It did not come from the Empire at war. It came from beyond the known galaxy. Anakin Skywalker lived long enough to see the Empire fall, long enough to watch the hidden school on Tatooine become a true Jedi Order, and long enough to learn that peace was never a final victory. It was a duty. It had to be chosen again and again by every generation. Years after Jakku, his hair had turned white, his steps had grown slow, and old wounds still burned beneath the gray armor he no longer wore in public. But the fire in his eyes remained. Students still quieted when he entered a room. They were not afraid of Vader. They were honoring the man who had walked out of darkness and spent the rest of his life trying to repay the galaxy for what he had once been. He chose to spend his final season on Tatooine, at Shmi Skywalker's old homestead, where the desert wind moved through the stone walls like memory itself. Luke understood why. The story had begun there, in sand and hunger and loss. If it was going to end, it would end there too. Leia came often, leaving Coruscant behind whenever duty allowed. Han grumbled about the heat, then stayed longer than planned every single time. Their children ran across the dunes, turning the empty land into something bright and loud. Jaina was bold, fast, and already sharper with a blade than most grown knights. Jason listened more than he spoke, and seemed to hear things in the Force before anyone else did. Little Anakin, named for the man who once terrified the galaxy, followed his grandfather everywhere, asking impossible questions that somehow always reached the heart of things. The old homestead had changed. The place where Anakin had once known only grief had become a center of life. A small temple stood near the farm, built from local stone and parts carried from ruined Jedi sites across the galaxy. Its walls held no statues of prideful masters. Its halls were plain. Its training rooms opened to the sky. Luke and Anakin had designed it that way on purpose. They wanted the students to remember that the Force did not live in towers. It lived in people, in choice, in sacrifice, in the space between fear and love. The New Order had no child armies, no distance from the people it served, and no blind trust in the Senate. It learned from farmers, healers, pilots, and survivors. It listened before it acted. It defended before it judged. And at the center of that change, whether he wanted the praise or not, stood Anakin Skywalker. But time was catching him. The suit that had once kept him alive had also chained pain to every breath. Even after Luke and the best healers in the New Republic rebuilt much of his body, the damage never truly left. Nights were the worst. Old burns throbbed like living coals. His chest tightened without warning. Sometimes, when the suns dropped and the shadows grew long, he would stop speaking mid-sentence and stare toward the horizon as if he could see the ghosts gathering there. Padme, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, the younglings he had failed, the worlds he had helped enslave. He carried them all. He always would, yet he no longer carried them alone. Leia sat with him in silence when words were useless. Luke spoke to him not as a legend, but as a son. And the children, without even knowing it, gave him the one thing he had spent a lifetime chasing in the wrong places, a future that did not fear his name. The end came quietly. There was no battle, no fleet over the sky, no emperor in the shadows. One morning Anakin tried to rise before dawn, as he always had, and his legs failed him. Luke caught him before he struck the floor. For a moment Anakin looked angry, not at death, but at weakness. Then the anger passed. He knew. The Force had been whispering for days, gentle now, not like a warning, but like an open door. They moved him to the shaded room that looked out over the moisture fields and the distant dunes. News traveled fast through the homestead. Leia arrived before sunset, still wearing the white and gray of the Senate. Han came behind her, unusually silent. Jaina and Jason stood in the doorway, trying to be brave because the adults were. Little Anakin broke first and ran to the bed. The old Jedi Master smiled and lifted a trembling hand to the boy's cheek. For 2 days, he drifted in and out of sleep. When he woke, he did not waste breath on denial. He spoke like a man setting tools in order before the last journey. He asked Luke about the outer temples, about the patrol routes near the unknown regions, about reports of old Imperial loyalists hiding beyond map space. He asked Leia whether the Senate still remembered ordinary people or only argued over systems and taxes. He asked Han if he was still cheating at Sabak. Han answered, "Only when I need to," and for a little while the room laughed. That mattered. Anakin did not want the end wrapped only in sorrow. He had given enough years to sorrow. On the second night, when the house fell still and only the desert wind remained, he asked for Leia's children. Not the council, not the generals, not the masters, the children. Luke understood at once and called them in. Jaina entered first, chin high, though her eyes were red. Jason came beside her, calm but pale. Little Anakin climbed onto the edge of the bed and grabbed the blanket in both hands. Their grandfather looked at them for a long time, as if fixing every detail in memory. Then he spoke. He told Jaina that courage was not the same as speed. "You'll want to move first," he said. "Sometimes you must, but a Skywalker is strongest in the breath before the strike." He told Jason that compassion without action could become an excuse. "You can feel every life in the room," he said softly. "Good. Never lose that. But when darkness comes, feeling is not enough. You must choose." Then he turned to the youngest. Little Anakin tried to speak and failed. His grandfather saved him from the effort. "Your name is not my burden," he whispered. "It is your chance to make something better." The boy nodded, tears falling anyway. Only then did Anakin ask Luke to bring the chest from the corner. Inside lay 3 objects wrapped in simple cloth. The first was the repaired blue lightsaber he had carried as a Jedi Knight, the blade that had seen Geonosis, Coruscant, and Mustafar. The second was a small holocron, built over years, filled with lessons from both Anakin and Luke, including failures the Old Order had. Hidden. The third was stranger than either of them. A broken piece of black armor from Vader's mask. Cut clean and polished smooth, its edges no longer sharp. Leia understood before Luke said a word. This was not treasure. This was warning. Anakin placed the saber across the children's hands together, not giving it to one, but to all. The legacy is not blood, he said. It is choice. Protect each other. Challenge each other. If one of you falls, the others do not stand aside. You pull them back. Promise me. They did. Even Jaina's voice shook. The room changed after that. No one else felt it first, but Luke did. The Force gathered softly, the way dawn gathers before light touches stone. Anakin's breathing became shallow, yet his face grew calmer with each breath instead of weaker. Leia took one hand. Luke took the other. Han stood near the door with the children, one arm around all three, as if he could hold back the moment by strength alone. Anakin looked to his daughter. So much had been stolen from them by lies, war, and time. Yet she was there now. He saw Padme in her eyes, and his own stubborn fire in the set of her jaw. I am proud of you, he told her. Leia closed her eyes, because if she met his gaze too long, she would break. Then Anakin looked at Luke. No grand speech remained between them. None was needed. You were right, he said. Luke bowed his head, tears falling freely now. You came back, he answered. The last breath did not sound like defeat. It sounded like release. Anakin exhaled once, slowly, and the years of pain seemed to leave with it. The room went still. Then the air moved. The curtains lifted though no door had opened. The old machines near the bed flickered and died. A warm light touched the walls, faint but real, and for one impossible second the desert outside seemed to hold its breath with them. Little Anakin looked up first. He's not gone, he whispered. Luke felt it too, not as a ghost forced into being, but as peace finally accepted. The fear that had ruled Anakin Skywalker for most of his life was gone. The hunger to control fate was gone. The war inside him had ended. He had become one with the Force at last, not as Vader, not even as the Chosen One, but as a man who had fallen, risen, and chosen love in the end. And as the family stood in grief and wonder, a warning beacon began to pulse in the temple courtyard, signaling that something vast had just crossed into known space. As Anakin became one with the Force, the Skywalker legacy passed into new hands. But before the family could even mourn, the warning beacon kept flashing in the desert night. Something was coming from beyond the edge of the galaxy. And this time, it was Leia's children who would have to stand against it.